Going to start recording this. So this is the first official one of these conversations that I am doing, these free workshops. And what I am going to be doing every single week until the inspiration shifts. But for now, on Wednesdays at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we're going to meet here. I will always post the link, and this is going to be always this link. So if you just want to save this,
Laina,
you'll have it for
is
forever and
anything
ever.
need to be hung?
Actually, I'm going to ask everybody. Let's see. I'm going to mute everybody. Let's see. Yes. So I'll mute everybody, and then when it's your time to chat, this is going to be interactive, you'll unmute yourself. So thank you so much for being here. The thing that I know is what I why I was placed on this planet, why I chose to come to this planet, was to wake up and discover the simple steps by which we all wake up, so that then I could share those with those who are interested in waking up. So all I'm going to share with you is how I got to where I'm at. Now, I'm not at the end of the journey. I am somewhere a step or maybe two ahead of you, but everything that I can do, you can do too. But I have to tell you, this is not a journey for the faint of heart, because there has to be a willingness to really change your thinking. And I have found one book that, above all the books that I have ever studied, has given me not only the clear steps in how to do that, but it has given me the opportunity to really hone in on the places where I was bullshitting myself. And the spiritual journey is a journey of gathering a lot of wonderful information. But when we're not aware of the role that our ego plays, what happens is the ego gets spiritualized. And then we all just get on the spiritual bully pulpit, which is no different than the religious bully pulpit. Because when we get truth in our head and we think we're right, our heart stays closed until the information that is accurate moves from our head to our heart. We are actually not walking the talk. We are talking it a whole bunch, but we're not walking the talk. And I've got a dear friend who is asking me how to join. So let me send to her the link real quick. Let's see. I'm trying to think, where did I even put this? Guys, give me a second and let me tell her to find it on Facebook. And that will be best, quickest thing. All righty. So the whole purpose of this journey is to take the truth from our head to our heart. And I know so many of you who are here, and those who I don't yet know, you are here because at some level you know truth. Truth has gotten activated in you, and you may just need a little tweak. Sometimes hearing one little thing causes that drop from the head to the heart. Now, one of the things that I know is my gifts, what I'm calling my brilliance, is I have been able to put truth in a real simple way that is easy for everybody to understand. However, our ego tricks us into believing that if it's really this simple, well, it can't possibly be that profound. And that is one of the reasons a lot of people who enter the spiritual journey do not wake up, because they think that the truth needs to be very complicated. We need all these certificates, we need all these PhDs or all these courses that we have to go to and gather so many accolades and approvals from others, and be on the Time Life magazine, People magazine, whatever, and we have to get validation before it's actually truth. But that's not the way it is. That's why they say you have to become like a little child to enter the kingdom of heaven. So we've got to let truth be super simple, so simple that a child can understand it in the way that I explain it. Children can actually understand it. So I'm going to invite you to take what resonates, leave what doesn't. You are the the gauge of what is true for you by how it feels in your body, how it lands within you. And I am expecting each and every one of you to know what is okay for you to accept and what is okay for you to reject. Whenever you reject something, whenever you resist something, it's just because you're not ready for it. It doesn't mean it's good or bad. It just means that there's something that it's not for you to receive. But you will always, always, always have access to truth because it's in you. All I'm going to help you discover today is how to access what's already in you. So I'm not giving you any truth. I'm just going to tell you where to go find it inside of yourself. And that is something I need everybody to agree on, that I'm not giving you anything that you don't already have. I'm just explaining it in such a way that you can access it more easily inside of you. And with that agreement, we're all equals here, because it's really important that we understand one of the most fundamental truths about this entire process of awakening is that we are going to remember that we are all one. We are all the same. We are all equal, expressing individually, uniquely, but we are all the same in the eyes of the Creator. We all have the exact same amount of power. We all have the exact same abilities to use it or not. What makes us different is the conditioning that is in our mind that tells us that we're different from each other in various ways, but none of that came to us from God. All of that was made up by man. I am going to use A Course in Miracles because, as I said, it is the one book that I have found that makes everything super simple, and holds me accountable, because it really calls out when we BS ourselves. But it is really, really important that you understand that the entire universe is conspiring to help all of us wake up. Because in the Course, it tells us God is missing us. And call God whatever you want to call it. Some people still have a charge around the word God. I know I did for many, many years. I grew up Catholic, and the word God just instilled fear. So I called it source, I called it universe, I called it spirit, I called it creator, I called it all kinds of things to avoid calling it, God, which is a simple word. But through my own experience with the Creator, it began to tell me what to call it, and actually gave me an acronym, which is GSEL. And all that means is that it wanted me to understand, and I'm going to just put it in here so you can see what it is. It's an acronym, GSEL. I put it in the notes. God is the source of the energy of love. And it wanted me to understand that labeling it something that instills fear is a block to our ability to connect with it. So the Course in Miracles gave me a real sweet path to reconnecting with the Creator in such a way that it allowed me to find that it exists inside of me, because that kingdom of heaven is inside of me. And the journey to creating a happy dream requires that we wake up from the nightmare that has been created. And the nightmare is created by something the Course calls, many of us call it the ego mind. And the ego is nothing more. And I'm going to give you simple explanations of what all of these things are so that you can put it into practice. The ego is nothing more than a thought system. The ego is not a thing. It's a thinking. And when you think thoughts that are egoic, it causes a block, a separation from what God is, from the essence of what we are that is already inside of us. So I'm going to give you all kinds of ways to look at these two distinct ways of being in the world. One is by thinking egoic thoughts and aligning with that kind of thinking. And the other one is what the Course in Miracles terms as our right mind. Our right mind is aligning with the thoughts that God activates inside of us through intuition. Again, those are not thoughts that the world can teach you because they're intuitively, innately already inside of us. What the world does is it causes us to forget the truth of who we are when people who are operating from their ego are teaching us. But when people who are operating from their God self, teachers like a Jesus or a Gandhi or a Martin Luther King Jr., there's so many who have walked this earth and have been teaching us truth. When we are taught by one who is aligned with God, one who is under no laws but God's, we can feel their peace, and it becomes something that draws us to them, because there is a frequency, a resonance that allows us to be drawn to them. And now more than ever, we are in the midst of a great awakening. We are at a time now where we have got to get out of our small egoic mind and open up to the larger mind, which means connect with the intelligence that created all that is, and move out of our very limited thinking, our very small mindedness, which has kept us inside of a very dysfunctional nightmare. So let me share with you how I see the journey. It's a very simple path that when we can, for me, when I see it visually, it makes it a lot easier. But so quite a few of you have joined us since we started. So I want to again welcome everybody to this first of what I'm calling the Happy Dream Creators. Because the Course in Miracles says that while we are on this planet, the best that we can do is create a happy dream. While we are unaware that we, what we are, magnificent holy beings with the creative source inside of us, accessible to us, we literally create a nightmare. But this planet can be shifted into a happy dream only by those who wake up. Those who operate inside of the egoic mental conditioning operate in the nightmare. And I'm going to give you a real simple visual. So let me go ahead and make sure, can everybody see this? If you guys can give me, shake your head or give me a thumbs up. Can you see what I'm doing here on the board? And can you still hear me? Yes, very cool. All right. So to make things simple, what I want to do is show you the 4 options that are available to us currently. And then when we are ready to really own the truth of who we are, there's a 5th option, which is the happy dream. So if you think of life pretty much as operating kind of in a circle, let's break it down into 4 parts. From our non-physical, before incarnation state of beingness, what we are is one with all that is. We literally are one. If you think of the board as God, as universe, as all there is, we are literally part of all that is, but we are inside of all that is. I'm going to put it like as a little dot, not differentiated in, not with a separate identity, not with anything that defines us or confines us, but the universe is filled with consciousness that has individualized expressions. And when we move down this path of awakening, it is a path of beginning to expand our mind to accept that we are connected with something way vaster than we are. Beyond this planet, beyond this galaxy, beyond this universe that we believe is finite, there is so much more, because what God is infinite. But before we incarnate, when we make a decision to enter into the world, we enter into what is known as the state of dream. We come into, it's like we go to sleep and we decide, I'm going to become a human, and the divine being that I am is no longer conscious of its divinity. We go unconscious and enter the dream. It's also known as the illusion, where we begin to create a story for ourselves. We enter, take on a physical body, take a limitation by being just male or female, by being, just a human or a pet or whatever. When we decide from our infinite creative possibility as a powerful creator, to enter into physicality, we enter the dream. Now, when we enter the dream, I like to use my little magnet people. When we are born into the dream, we have that experience of popping out of the womb. We're all bringers of light. That is a given. Every child that is born into the dream comes in a bringer of love and light. That's why everybody wants to hold a little baby, because they're light. They are not only the light of the creative source expressing itself, but they're light. Their frequency is light. They operate in the high vibration, because babies don't threaten anybody. Everybody wants to grab them because they're full of love and joy and peace. Then what happens through the journey while we're on this planet and we enter the dream, and we kind of begin to forget that what we are is divine, non-physical, powerful beings, our mind begins to get programmed and indoctrinated by the outer world that gives us information, that tells us how to be in the world, be of it. We begin to receive information, and our mind is filled with dense stuff that begins to condense our idea of ourselves and of everybody else. And whereas children, we're full of imagination and there's no boundaries to what we want to be when we grow up, we begin to, through the process of education, begin to be formed into conformist people. As we begin to conform, we begin to, because we are being informed by the outer world, we begin to be outer focused. So in the dream, everything is about the outer world. As our mind gets indoctrinated, we begin to densify. We begin to become smaller in our thoughts about who we are. We begin to then give power to the authorities outside of us. It starts with mother, father, then it goes on to teachers, preachers, media, government. We begin to give the outer power over us. And where we as children were light and bright, we begin to get a little darker. We begin to densify. That's why teenagers who are moving through this barrier are being pulled into a small idea of who they are. And teenagers are ornery because it's like their last chance to push against giving up their own ideas of who they are and conforming to the ideas that the world, the outer world, has decided is who they need to be. Because the entire idea of the dream is to enter into a forgetting of who we are, so that the world can inform us what we need to, who we need to be, what we need to do, and what we need to have to operate and be successful. So that you can become something, you have to be trained. Then what happens is, as we descend into the density of the forgetfulness of the dream, little by little, this dream turns into a nightmare. And it becomes a nightmare because we are totally, completely lost in a fog, in a web of ideas, of rules, of regulations, because the nightmare is the realm of the ego. It's the egoic playground, and it's based on control. When we begin to descend into that realm, where we came in as light and we got a little darker as we were being indoctrinated, we become pretty dense. It's like we just become so condensed and defined. Now, where we were little and I could be a fireman or a pilot or a mermaid or a pony or an Indian, I could be anything I wanted to. This gets more defined, and this gets confined into I'm a mom, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a teacher, I'm a this, I'm a that. And now our mind gets very, very single focused. Everything becomes about me. And when it's all about me, what begins to happen is that everything that gets done is to control my experience. And that means it's up to me to keep me safe. When we enter into the nightmare, and I need to be safe and protect me. And we all do it. This is what our ego is all about. There is that selfish aspect of ourselves that causes us to enter into the nightmare. Nobody goes into the nightmare without a very selfish orientation. That's the way that it is. But because we have been trained to believe the outer world, that the authority is outside of us, we are always going to find someone who is more dense than we are, who is the one that actually appears to be the one in control. These are far and few in between, but they're here nonetheless. And I'm using red because I really want this to stand out. As we descend into the density of the ego, those who really take on the idea that they are the authority of everybody else, the boss of everybody else. Yes, parents take on a level of authority, but most parents have another authority that they go to, whether it's their boss, whether it's the government, whether it's the Pope. There's somebody else that they go to. This world, when you begin to open up and see the way all of this happens, the way we get conditioned, the way we get programmed, and the Course in Miracles helps us see how to undo that programming, we will always realize that there is what we call the 1%, the 1% of the 1%, because it's a very small number of those who understand how the mind works. But because they use it from a place that is strictly about needing to be right, needing to be the controllers who create this nightmare and suffering for others, that very few, again, 1% of the 1% are the ones who literally are dictating what everybody else does. So the way to begin to move out of this, and it happens for all of us, we all have the same ability to do this, is we have to begin the process of becoming self-aware. That's what the movement out of the density of the ego becomes. This, we go from where this was the dream, this is the nightmare, this is about self-awareness. We become a little bit more self-aware because we have to get curious. The mind has to have a level of curiosity. You've got to be willing to question what you know. Typically, this happens when we get so uncomfortable, when we cannot get things to go our way anymore, when we're so tired of being controlled, of trying to stay safe, of doing the right thing, doing all that we're doing to be, to do, to have. Once we get tired of being on that hamster wheel and things don't seem to get better, because those who are controlling know that as long as we believe that they have what we need, we never get off the hamster wheel. But when it gets uncomfortable enough, usually through a divorce, through the loss of a job, through an illness, and currently, 2020 gave us COVID, an opportunity to go inside to question what's going on. When we get curious, we begin the process of becoming self-aware. The journey of awareness is a step in the direction of what is necessary for us to get out of this mess. Self-awareness does not wake you up. It just begins the process of awakening, because after we go through the process of awareness comes the awakening. Awakening still doesn't mean you are awake. It means that you're on that process. When we move to the place of completely becoming self-aware of who we are, which means we are returning our mind to think with the mind of God, to think with what is truth for all of us, to think in a way that begins to move us into equality, into self-worth, into recognizing that we really don't need to be confined and controlled by others. We begin to expand our awareness of our power, but then comes the next part of the journey that is very, very difficult. And it is to shed our human identity, our ego identity, and begin awakening inside of us our soul identity, our spirit identity, our what Jesus taught to us. I and the Father are one. This is where we begin to connect with the I am that is spirit and move out of the me, the little I am that is just a human. This movement to awakening requires that we do something that's very, very difficult. And it's very difficult because we have to detach from all of the things that we had done, to become, to do, to have. We have to detach of being identified by our net worth. We need to detach by being identified by our position in society, our job, our titles, or whatever that is. We need to stop thinking that who we are is based on what we have. We move to the places where we begin to discover that there is something inside of us that is eternal, will be there beyond this life, will be there beyond waking up from this dream. And that part of ourselves is what we align with what the Course is teaching us, is the mind of God. And the mind of God is a mind that is absolutely loving. We have to look at how we got controlled into believing that God is a God of punishment. That was taught to us by somebody in the outer world. It is not natural for us to think that. It is natural inside of us to feel loved, because what love is knows nothing but love. Until we are trained into fearing mother, father, teacher, preacher, and then eventually fearing God, we don't really understand what God is, and it gets placed on a cloud out there somewhere, out of touch. We can't reach it. It doesn't take care of us. Look at all this suffering that I'm experiencing. It's God's, it's up to God to let me be happy. If it's God's will for me to get the promotion, it's up to God. I'm praying to God. It's something still outer of us. Awakening is a bringing inside of us the recognition through the work of removing the layers of identification with so many things that have completely caused us to forget the truth of who we are. We peel through those identities. I'm a this, I'm a that, I have this, I have that. And we come to eventually land in a place inside of us where we begin to realize, wait a second, I and the creator are really one. I have access to that. When I quiet the noise of my mind, because only the ego makes noise, because only what controls likes to make noise, and we come inside to a place where we begin to rest in a depth inside of us where we find that we really can be kind and compassionate and forgiving, where we begin to realize that our capacity to care about other people begins to expand, because the mind that begins to align with God is a mind that begins to notice where we're all the same. The conditioning that the outer world has given us, that has us get really dense and dark, is based on division. We get separated into groups, male and female. We get separated into groups, whites and blacks and yellows and browns. We get separated into Democrats and Republicans. We get separated into haves and have-nots, the educated and the uneducated, the rich and the poor. There is a very systematic way by which our mind gets indoctrinated into division. That is the hallmark of the ego mind, is separation and division. This is why we call it duality. Those who understand that if we give you information that has you identify and become very certain that your identity is the better one, is the right one, you will always remain at a level of war with everybody else that is different from you, according to what you are taught. I mean, all we need to do is look at the world today and look at the Republican versus the Democrats, the liberals versus the conservatives, the masked versus the unmasked, the vaccinated versus the unvaxxed. We have been conditioned into believing that what makes us different, we need to defend, or somebody can take, that it can hurt us. Somebody can take from us what is ours. So what we have, what we've become, what we do, we need to protect it. But that protection comes through a win-lose mentality. I have to protect me, which means I win, means you lose. Because in this world of duality, in the world of the ego, is a world of finiteness. There's not enough for everybody else. But those who run the world understand, and they only run the world because we let them, because we have not woken up. But those who run the world understand that if we are kept ignorant of the I amness that is within us, we will seek to have something external to us to make us feel safe, to make us feel better, to make us feel healthier, to make us feel loved. So this process of moving into curiosity is about becoming self-aware that there is a light in you. It came with you. You brought it in. It's still there. It just got dimmed down so low, and we get so dark that we forget that it is our truth. It is our reality. The self-awareness journey is to move beyond self-help. Self-help is a part of that journey, but self-awareness is to become aware that what we are is a presence. It's not a form. It doesn't, you can't go to the store and buy that. You have to cultivate a relationship with it. And to cultivate a relationship with it, you have to be willing to get quiet. You've got to be still. You've got to listen to your own noise in your own head, and listen to the thoughts that we think that are so judgmental and so divisive and so self-serving, so, lying. We lie to ourselves, we lie to others. So it requires an incredible amount of courage to sit and listen to our fears and find out, where did that come from? Who taught that to me? This is a journey of discovering that every egoic thought that you have is not yours originally. It's a hand-me-down belief. Somebody gave it to you, and it is only your truth because you have agreed to accept it. When I agree that what I am is Catholic, because that's what my family was, I called myself Catholic for the longest time because it's what grandma was. It's what my dad was. It's what the family was. I grew up in a country that we were primarily Catholic, in the Dominican Republic. I didn't question, am I Catholic? I wasn't born with any labels. I got a label put on me. So there is a self-awareness, is the process of peeling all these labels. Not that you can't remain Catholic. You can if you want to by choice, but not by definition, because what defines us confines us. And once you're confined into an identity, you will want to defend it. And this is how we get into judgments, into competition, into rights and wrongs. So the process of self-awareness requires an incredible amount of courage to question all your thoughts. And it can be a very scary process, because people that we loved, like grandmother, teach us, or grandfather, teach us things that limit us. Like, money doesn't grow on trees. Like, who do you think you are? Like, you've got to work really hard to be happy, to be successful, to be liked. Thank you, Grandma. That might have been your idea, but it's not the truth of who I am anymore, because I am cultivating a relationship with an I amness that is helping to awaken the light in me, helping to awaken the part of me that went to sleep when I entered the dream and then got caught up in the nightmare. When we do the work of owning the truth of who we are, that is when we are going to be shifting and moving into the place where the Course in Miracles wants us to eventually realize that we can get to. And that is to create a happy dream. While we're in this world, we are still dreaming. The Course in Miracles helped me understand that the world that we see with our physical eyes is a world that we have projected out there to hide ourselves from God, to separate ourselves from God. So we have made idols, we have made gods of money, of status, of all kinds of things as a way to hide ourselves from our true identity. To move into this happy dream is to basically help everybody disidentify with the external as their source of happiness and joy, and to bring the joy from inside of us out into the world. This is what Jesus meant by be in the world, but not of it. Those who are living inside of a happy dream are the ones who have turned on their light, and it doesn't matter where they are, even in the middle of the nightmare, they can see what's happening very clearly, but you're not swayed by it because you're recognizing, oh wow, that's one of my holy brothers or sisters who is lost in the nightmare. They're lost in the dream. They're in the world and they're of it. They're identified with it. One who has turned on their light and they are, living in this world but not of it, can see those who are controlling the world and recognize, wow, the only reason you are attempting to control other people is because you are the most scared of all. You are the one at the lowest rung on the vibrational scale, so you really are very scared. And those who control the masses are so afraid that the masses are going to wake up. The reason the masses are beginning to wake up is because we're beginning to experience something that is really fascinating and necessary for awakening. We're beginning to not feel safe in this world. So there is an opportunity for us to begin to see that we can't count on this illusory world that we have projected to keep us safe, because we're beginning to wake up to realize that things like government is nothing more than a collection of a bunch of people who, just like me, are souls who chose to have a human experience. So there's just a whole bunch of people operating in alignment with their ego, operating in a state of me, of controlling, and they're the ones who are making up the rules. But one of the fascinating things that we begin to realize when we can begin to wake up, when we can begin to pull away from the darkness that we have been operating and begin to lighten up, when we begin to get curious, we are lightening up. When we begin to lighten up and we see what's going on with the density of those who control the world, we begin to see that it is nothing more than a collection of people who are trying to take care of themselves, because the world of the ego is the world of me. Me. And that makes us greedy. It makes us selfish. It makes us take care of me first. So as we begin to see that there are lots of people taking care of them and not so much about anybody else, and we're seeing that because the systems are breaking down. We can't count on the government to do what it used to tell us it was going to do. We can't count on the medical establishment to give us the well-being that we thought that they were going to give us. We can't count on the education system to really prepare us to go out into the world to express ourselves in the best possible way so we can earn the most that we possibly can. Because those systems are breaking down, lots of people are beginning to get curious about another way to find their safety. And as we get curious and we begin to look for another way to find our safety, we begin to lighten up. We begin to move through the layers of density that helps us eventually become enlightened. What is one who is enlightened? Is somebody who turned their own freaking light back on. That's all that it is. That's all enlightenment is you begin to acknowledge what you were taught when you were little. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Course in Miracles tells us that we are the light of the world. I'm actually going to start doing some daily recordings to remind people that we are the light of the world. And one of my dear friends, many of you know her, Lorelei, an astrologer, she told me that based on my planets, you know how Lorelei talks, based on the planets that I have that align with this, that, or the other, and my moon is over here or behind me or whatever it is, I trust her. because I feel the truth of what she shares. It's always very giving. She is always giving to others, sharing. She told me not to put my first message out until Thursday. So Thursday is a good day for me to get my message out into the world. So you can start looking for those messages called I'm the Light of the World. That's what I'm going to title them. They'll be on my YouTube. So be sure to see the replay of this or to watch those I am the Light of the World messages. Go to my YouTube channel and make sure that you subscribe to receive the notifications and get the messages. So as we become enlightened, we turn up our light. That light is what we then will be able to clearly see the insanity, the nightmare that the world has become. So I'm going to stop here because I want to give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions. I know today is more of a me sharing information with you so we can all get on the same page. But the future Wednesdays is going to be a lot more interactive because I want to help you shift yourself and lift out of the density of the ego and lift into the frequency of your soul, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, your higher self. Your authentic self. It doesn't matter what we call these things. What matters is that we begin to feel that in our ego state, we get contracted and tight and tense. In our authentic self, and when we open up and let our light shine, we get lighter, we lighten up, we open up, we become more loving, kinder, compassionate. The selfishness of the ego makes us contract. The aliveness, the joy of our soul makes us expand and share. This is all about what can I get and protect, and this is all about what can I give and extend, because giving and receiving become one in this area, because we know that everything that I give to you, I'm giving it to me. Because the more I share with people who wake up and you shift from being darker to lighter, the more I give information, the more I assist people, the more this group lightens up. And what happens eventually? The nightmare will disappear because our minds will no longer be clouded by darkness. And the darkness is nothing more than lies that we tell ourselves to keep ourselves small. Now, those lies come to us, as I said, from others. And those who want to keep us in the dark are the ones who continue to lie to us. We all of us have heard the term fake news. We are being lied to constantly. But a mind that is not turned in on itself and is curious enough to question everything that you are told is a mind that is so afraid that it accepts the lies as truth, and it thinks that the truth that we're sharing are lies. This is why it's so difficult to wake somebody up who's not ready, because there has to be a readiness to question what we believe about ourselves and others. And that is really the biggest step, is that willingness to see things differently. And Course in Miracles turns the world that I knew about, turned it upside down, inside out. And it was not a fun process discovering how full of BS I was, belief systems, bullshit I was, and how I believed, felt so righteous with that misinformation in my mind. And then I had to shed that and little by little let that go, along with my attachments to everything that I had become and had done and had, until I found my freedom in being authentically myself, which means I don't care what anybody thinks about me, because that's not what matters. What matters is what God thinks about me, and God thinks I am holy, I am magnificent, I am loving, I am beautiful, I am perfect, I'm eternal. That is what matters for me to know about myself, because when I know that is the truth about me, guess what? That's how I see you. Which is why I don't see victims anymore. I see powerful beings who chose to enter the dream, descended into the nightmare. And if somebody's suffering in the nightmare, is by choice that they may not be aware that they have, but it is a choice nonetheless. And that's what I want to empower you into remembering, is that if you're suffering, it is by choice. That feels very offensive to people who are asleep, but those who are curious begin to realize that I don't want to suffer. And there's a brilliant book that was written by a man of God, a man with a connection to truth. His name is Viktor Frankl. He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning about his experience in concentration camps during the Holocaust. And one of the most powerful lines in that book is that pain is inevitable in a world of physicality, but suffering is optional. And when I read that suffering was optional in that book, and I began to realize, oh, I don't have to suffer. That's when I got very curious about how do I change my thinking so suffering doesn't run my life. And of course, that process of curiosity means that you've got to look at all of the places where you have thought that you were a victim of the world. And we've got to shed this victim story, because nobody could control us if we had control of our mind. But while our mind is under the control of others, under mind control, we become victims, but not victims because we didn't know that our mind was being controlled by others. We become victims because we willingly give up our sovereignty and say, I need you to tell me what to do because I don't want to be responsible for my own thinking. The process by which we gave up our mind into mind control was very gradual. It happened from the time we were itty bitty babies. It was so gradual. We didn't know what was happening. We did when we were teenagers because we knew it all. And then all of a sudden, somebody's telling us that we don't know it. Somebody's trying to tell us something that is not in alignment with what we know is true. And the shift happens when we give in to the world's ways, and if we don't, those are the troublemakers. Those are the black sheeps. Those are the ones you want to keep your kids away from. I know I did that to some of those people who were trying to stay in their own place, namely my children. But when we realized that our mind was little by little controlled by others into submission, we have to take full responsibility to return it back into our control, our own personal control. Because when you begin to decide for yourself, to think for yourself, you become the light of the world. You become one that shines your light to be in service to humanity. You become one that helps to uplift everybody. You stop being selfish and it's all about me, and you become somebody who is so full of certainty and clarity and inner peace and creativity, that you become a beacon in this world right now that needs a lot of beacons in the midst of all the darkness that is going on. All right, so let me stop there. Let me open it up. If anybody has comments, I want to hear from you. Comments, questions, anything. I want you to tell me, did this resonate with you? And again, what doesn't resonate, leave it here. What does, take it with you. It's my gift. So unmute yourself, because I have muted everybody.
Hey, Laina, I'm going to stay off of camera just because I won't go into reasons.
No.
Anyway, but I wanted to share with you, I love the clarity in which you laid this out, because there are concepts that I am familiar with in a variety of ways. I think you know a little bit about my story. I was blessed with a mother who helped me to stay conscious as much as possible in that process, with a father who was saying you need to be of the world. So it was a very interesting journey for me, but the way that you've laid this out, it just makes so much sense. It's so clear. And the languaging that you use makes it accessible. And I just am really, really grateful that you invited me to be here today. I just really wanted to express my appreciation for the way you laid all this out.
Oh, absolutely. It is my pleasure. It's the good news. You can't keep it to yourself. You want to share it, because it's people coming into the truth of who they are. It's people finding their own source of peace inside, that are the gentle, kinder people that are going to help shift the planet. So what is happening right now is that, well, it happened during the harmonic convergence around 1988, 1987, 88, 89. There was a shift that took place. When we understand that we're part of a bigger system and we move out of our own little idea that us humans are, we're the center of the universe, when we begin to understand what's going on, we were moved, that this planet was shifted inside of the galaxy, inside of the universe. We shifted into a lighter place in the universe. We entered into what is known as the photon belt. We are being bathed with light that is helping to illuminate our mind, that is helping to activate a memory that is causing many, many, many people to wake up. When Jesus came to the planet, he came in fully aware of his magnificence. He did develop a little bit of an ego mind as he began to think of himself as, a boy, a carpenter. And little by little, he had to move out of that density and realize, no, wait a second, I and the Father are one. And he was able to walk in the midst of the darkness, all those dark people. He walked in there shining his light. And as powerful as he was, he couldn't shift the planet, couldn't do it because there was too much density. Now, 2,000 years later, and many teachers later, the planet is in a place where there is a lot more light illuminating our minds. There's a lot more opportunity to wake up. So many of us, and all of you who are here, are clearly on the path to ascension. You have felt inside of you an awakening that is causing you to want to align with the truth of who you are. And you are seeing that the world has gone mad. Why? Because it is mad. It's a nightmare. The world as we knew it is backwards. It's all about greedy selfishness and accumulation and taking advantage of anybody, because that's the way it operates. It's winners and losers, haves and have-nots. And we are waking up. The light is getting turned on at a time where the universe is calling us back into the truth of who we are. And the reason is simple. Playing the human game is a game. We all get to play that game. And when we enter into our human experience, there's only so far we can go. God gave us freedom, but we are not free enough to undo the truth of who we are. We're not free enough to undo our light. We can block it, which is what the ego does, but we cannot not be the light. So we are being, basically, it's like the rubber band went as far as it went, the greed went as far as it could go, the selfishness went as far as it could go, and the looking outside of ourselves went as far as they can go, because we can't find much of anything that makes us happy outside of ourselves anymore. And that rubber band is coming back. It is snapping back. That is what I want you to really take away from this is, do you want your rubber band to come back to the truth of who you are in a really harsh way? Do you need to be hit over the head with 2x4s? Or are you willing to come back to the truth of who you are the easy and fun way? And the fun way is to do it in community that speaks to your light, to be in where two or more are gathered and there is love. Be with people who speak to the truth of who you are. Get out of the groups that tell you that you're bad, that you're a sinner, that you're not good enough, that your body is sick, that you need to get, something external to make you better. Be in conversations that say that who you are is powerful. One of the things that is happening right now that we have to be very, very aware of is there's a lot of censorship of those who speak truth. Anybody who tells you that you can heal by connecting and aligning with the healing power inside of you they don't want you to believe that. Anybody who is speaking truth, that you have the ability to attract abundance, to participate in prosperity opportunities, who want to tell you that, no, that's not okay, you've got to fit into the rules and the boxes, they want to censor that conversation. So everything that is of truth today is what is being censored. Because here's the beautiful thing about the light. The light doesn't censor anything because the light allows everything to be what it is, because when you turn the light on, you can see the dark corners in your house. But when the light is off, you can't see the dark corners in your house. All of it is dark and you get used to walking, in the darkness. But the light is getting turned on because we are becoming the light. We are the ones who are moving out of density and becoming lighter and brighter. And just as it takes one match in a dark room to help you see a little bit more clearly, because of that harmonic convergence, there are many of us who have turned our light on, and now we are beacons, massive beacons in the millions, beacons of love and light. And when you begin to accept the truth of who you are, you become to be labeled a conspiracy theorist, whatever, crazy things. You get labeled. And if any of you have had that label placed on you, consider it a badge of honor, because that means that you are one who was curious enough to question the game. And those who are controlling the game don't want you to know how powerful you are, because when we discover how powerful we are, we don't feed the machine. And the machine requires complacent, compliant, controllable people who don't think for themselves anymore because they need mommy, daddy in government and something else to keep them safe. Those who find their safety in God are fearless. And that is what is happening. When we find that place inside of us where we find our alignment with God, we know our eternalness. Death becomes just a process that we go through when we're ready to leave the game and go take a break before we incarnate again and play another game. The Course in Miracles teaches us that death is not real, because the body is ultimately not real. It's nothing more than energy that has been called together in consciousness to give us a physical experience. And when you realize that you are the energy that you chose to pull together by using your consciousness, your conscious decision to have a human body, and you begin to remember the truth of your power, you begin to access the ability to heal your body. Well, guess what is one of the things that we have been conditioned to believe? That we need our well-being from something external. And we have been indoctrinated to believe that wellness has to be purchased. Wellness is natural inside of us. We have to harness it. We have to cultivate it. We have to maintain it. But we have been conditioned into being such busybodies, overworked, so in debt, buying more things, getting more. We got to be more so we can have more money, so we can do more things and buy more crap and fill our lives with so much density that we become slaves. And guess what we are in the midst of right now? A battle between dark and light. But there is no way to win this battle if you attack the darkness. The Course in Miracles says, do not attack the darkness. Rather, look at it and say, you have no more power over me. When your mind is not a slave, it's not being controlled by the few, the many will wake up, because these ultimately are the most scared people on the planet. They cannot have their way of life if we're not afraid of losing ours. And when we're no longer not afraid of losing our miserable way of life on the hamster wheel, and we free ourselves from that nonsense, we become a threat. And that is why everything that makes us, or that makes sense to us, is beginning to be called a conspiracy. It's beginning to be censored. Because what is happening is that we're busting through the matrix. The nightmare is a matrix. And if you watch the movie The Matrix, you will see that what humans are nothing more than batteries where the life force is being sucked out of us. Our fears feed the machine. And as long as we're afraid, we sell our souls. But you can't be afraid if you own your soul. And if you own your soul, all that that means is you've accepted that I and the Father are one. I am holy. I am magnificent. I am worthy. I have something inside of me that I can count on. I have built my house on a foundation so solid that the things that are temporary and external to me, when they move, and they will move, when they shift, and they will shift, marriages and you know bodies get sick, things happen, jobs go away, people don't like you because of who you voted for. When the external things shift, what is solid inside of you will remain. And yes, it can sometimes feel lonely, but if we stay connected with others who remind us of the truth of who we are becoming a big number. We are becoming a mighty, mighty number. The Course in Miracles calls us mighty companions. And I created this because I want you to have at least me as a companion. And if more of us come together and keep staying inside of this conversation, we get so clear about who we are that we will radiate out that truth. And when we radiate out that truth, others who are caught in the illusion, their stories will begin to melt away in our compassion. Because guess what? Somebody who's trying to instill fear and control, they're hurting. What they need more than anything is compassion. They are stuck inside of a nightmare, and we are not. The last thing we want to do is tell them, get out, there's no monster under your bed. What we do is what a loving parent does, what God has done for me, what God does for all of us. Like a brother Jesus, like a friend Jesus, like so many teachers before them, they come in and say, hey, there's another way. There's a way of love. There's a way of light. There's a way of gentleness. And when you find your strength within you, you will become a beacon that will assist others. And beacons don't leave the shore to pull in the ships that are lost. Beacons stay on the shore, shine their light, and those ships know where to go for true assistance. Habiba, thank you so much for your comments earlier. And let's see, Reina, you have to drop off. Oh, thank you so much for being with us. Yes, and I will post this on YouTube, so you'll find it there. All right, I want to hear from a few more of you. What did you guys think? Did you get some nuggets?
Yes, Laina, I just want to thank you so much for this too. I'm going to be emotional about it. I grew up in a religion called United Pentecostal. I don't know if any of you have heard of that, but it's a very strict, legalistic, dogmatic religion. And only in the last 5 to 8 years have I really been able to separate myself from that. Now, of course, my family doesn't speak to me anymore, but that's okay. I processed that and I worked through that. But I just yesterday was telling a friend that we're accountability partners. I just said, I just feel like there's still a link missing. I've processed all of that junk and all of that garbage and all of that indoctrination and all of that brainwashing. And I just feel like there's still something missing in my life. And then you popped up in my newsfeed yesterday, and I immediately knew that what you are teaching and what you are putting out there is that missing link that I need. So I just want to thank you for being open and being vulnerable and putting this out there for us. Because first I thought when it hit my spirit and it felt so good, then I was trying to talk myself out. Oh my God, you're just going to take another course. You're just going to do, but I knew. But thank you so much for following spirit and putting this out there for all of us. And I agree with Habiba that the way you explain it is so simple and so easy to understand. And just thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. And, I had to put it out there because I was told to put it out there. One of the wonderful things about coming to the place of knowing that I and the Father are one is I am under no laws but God's. And I want to do what I'm told to do, because everything that I am told to do always expands my joy. I mean, it's about multiplication. That's what the Course says, that God created us to extend the kingdom. And the kingdom gets extended by us living it. As we give it, we receive it. So I just want to share something about the Course in Miracles. It tells us in the very introduction, and as we continue these weeks, we'll get more into the actual teachings of the Course. But it tells us that it is a required course. It is required that you understand that your mind is divided into two parts, the ego side and the God side. We have to wake up and be the presence that chooses between those two thought systems. And choosing to align with God is required, but you can take however much time you need to take to get there. And it's not that the Course is the only book that will get you there, is that it is required that you make a choice to align with the truth of who you are. It is required. You cannot wake up until you have aligned with the acceptance of the magnificence that is who you are. So we are coming to the place of having to realize, oh my gosh, we've always had this amazing light inside of us, but we weren't shining it because we were told, who do you think you are to think you're so bright? And we got taught that we were compared, and they put us in competition with one another. And we didn't learn how to uplift and support each other. We learned how to put each other down and make each other, some of us better than others. But Course in Miracles is a beautiful, beautiful teaching. And it is so pure. You cannot find anything in there that speaks in any way, shape, or form of separation, of duality, of condemnation. It is the most gentle, loving course I have ever found. And it is consistently reminding us of our magnificence. That is what I absolutely love about it, is no matter where you go in the Course, no matter what section of it, and it's a pretty thick book, and I do want to share one lesson with us. It's a pretty thick book. It is wanting to remind us of the truth of who we are, so that we can get comfortable with the fact that we are in a dream. We chose to come in here, create a world where we would separate from God and have an experience of separation. It wasn't meant for us to go into a nightmare. The nightmare happened because we left God out. We got trained out of believing God was inside of us. And guess who some of these controllers are? The church, who wanted to make sure that they put God outside of us, indoctrinated us into fearing God. So we would always have to give him 10% of what we made to get God to forgive us. Well, inside of that story of having to pay for our salvation, pay for our liberation, our mind got conditioned into stories that are just absolutely not true. Our liberation, our salvation, our innocence is free, but we have to claim it. We have to undo the cobwebs, remove the lies, let go of the stories that have us return our mind to our right thinking, so that we can wake up. Because to be awake is to live in the higher frequency. And in one of the next weeks, one of the sessions, I'm going to bring a chart that I use, that I've created by combining two books. One is the book Power versus Force. There's a map of consciousness. It's a calibration of the lowest sphere to the highest enlightenment states of beingness. And also the book Ask and It Is Given by Abraham, which is the scale of emotions. When you put everything from fear to the high frequency of love, you see what you have to go through to get to that place where you achieve enlightenment. And we have to go through those levels, like grades in school. We have to graduate one after the next until we pop out of the illusion. But when we pop out of the illusion, to be awake is to see clearly, so you can come back into the dream and see everybody that is there, be in the world but not of it, and bring your light like Jesus did. Bring compassion. We have a lot of people to forgive, for they know not what they're doing. There's nobody out there that is not a child of God. They're just in different stages of forgetfulness of the truth of who they are. And the ones who are the most forgetful are the ones who are doing the most evil of things. And the evil is nothing more than they are operating totally, completely in their mind darkened. They barely feel any of the light that is inside of them. So they got to go take it from other people. And those of us who shine our light really brightly, well, we've got to look at past experiences from past lives, being burnt at the stake, being, made fun of for being shamans. Many of us, when we shined our light, when we were little and we were shining our light, somebody smacked us and told us, who do you think you are? So we've got to get back to the place where we claim that light. And I want to share this lesson with you. This is lesson 355 in the course. It's a short lesson. The title of it is, There is no end to all the peace and joy and all the miracles that I will give when I accept God's word. Why not today? And all of the titles of the lessons are affirmations. So let me read that again. There is no end to all the peace and joy and all the miracles that I will give when I accept God's word. Why not today? And there's a short paragraph that is like a prayer that goes with it. Why should I wait, my Father, for the joy you promised me? For you will keep your word you gave your son, your daughter in exile. We're in exile when we don't remember what we are, when we live in the world thinking that we're of the world. I am sure my treasure waits for me, and I need but reach out my hand to find it. Get curious. Even now, my fingers touch it. It is very close. I need not wait an instant more to be at peace forever. It is you I choose, and my identity along with you. Your son, your daughter, would be himself, herself, and know you as his Father, Mother God, and Creator, and his love. Why wait any longer than right now to just accept the truth of who we are? So I want to invite everybody here to, as we get ready to close, and I do want to open it up in case anybody has any more comments or questions. I want you to look on the screen and look at all of these beautiful beings that are there. And I want you to just gaze upon these holy companions that we have. And just see each and every one of them as just as capable as you are of accessing the light that is within, so that together we can cultivate the necessary awareness that allows us to create a happy dream. Because the happy dream, the new earth, is not going to get created by anybody but those of us who turn on our light. We have to be the ones who get happy and stay happy in the midst of the massive, major, I'm going to call turbulence that is coming. The controls are no longer sustainable, but there are too many who are holding on to something that is breaking apart. There are too many still believing in a false prophet, a false God, a safety outside of themselves. And until we realize that the only thing that is going to save this planet, the only thing that is going to save any of us, is to align with the power inside of us that activates our sovereignty, so we can stop saying, so we can start saying no to those who want to control our minds. Until we do that for ourselves, we will continue to feed the machine of indoctrination, of misinformation, of keeping us small, telling us to be afraid of this, that, or the other. Well, guess what? Fear is an illusion. And it's an illusion simply because it's nothing more than a thought. It's a thought. And if you don't believe the thing that activates your fear, it has no power over you. So fear becomes a wonderful guide, a wonderful teacher pointing at the misinformation in the mind. But we need to be here for each other. while we unpack these fears, because it's not an easy process. As Lenora was speaking, I mean, it took me a decade to unravel my fears, my sense of limitation, my terror, my anger, my shame, my guilt, my all of those things, my superiorness, my inferiorness, my victimhood, my bulliness. To unpack all of that, it took me a good decade. And then it's been another decade to live into the truth of who I am, because I had to literally practice thinking in a new way and then living in that new way many times with people giving me opportunities to question the truth of who I am. And there's just nothing more important than we connect with people who say, yeah, I know your truth. I know your power. You may not have been able to access it right now. That's okay. Just forgive yourself for forgetting your power, but I know it's in you. And that's what I want to say to you. I know it's in you. Why wait? Why wait? So let me open this up. Let's see. All you guys unmute yourselves, and anybody who has anything to share, please do so. I thank you for being here. I will post this on YouTube, and then come join me next Wednesday at 12 o'clock and invite more friends. Let's multiply those who are listening to the good news of our magnificence.
Laina, could I say something?
Yeah, Miss.
This is so amazing, and you know, of course, I've been with you for so many years, so I love all this, and I've learned this, but it's just such a beautiful reminder, and that's why I always want to stay connected to love and to people who are beings of light. And now, right now, I'm in a place, a situation where there is a lot of density, and what I've chosen is, it really doesn't matter. I don't really. I'm addressing that person, and I said it. There's another couple with us, and the person is the guy I came here with. I'm in Florida, by the way, guys. I'm out of town, but it's like he's a child of God. He's just unaware, and as soon as I get home, bye-bye. But just tell the truth. And I could easily just go take a flight home if I wanted, but I'm in Florida. It's gorgeous. Oh my God. So I'm not going to go home, and I spend a lot of money to be here. So anyway, all's good. But I love it. See it in my life. Suffering is optional. I don't have to give my happiness away because this guy's got major issues. That's a judgment, but that's what I'm experiencing. So the other couple that I'm with have been saying to me, they say I'm a saint, which is pretty funny, but because they see how I'm being gentle and compassionate, because he's obviously in a lot of pain. I'm just not going to keep myself in it for too long, and I may not make it. But anyway, it's beautiful. I see this. I feel the light. I feel so grounded, and just I'm just so grateful to you and this Course in Miracles. And I so agree with everyone who says you make it so understandable, and just I thank you so much. I'm loving it because it's
Awaken until we can be in the midst of the darkness and hold our light. That's what to be awake is. And the way you hold your light is very simple. It shows up through how much peace is in your heart, how much kindness can you extend to others, and how much forgiveness are you willing to
absolutely
share. Because if we're not willing to forgive our brothers and sisters who are asleep, then that means we're still asleep. Because condemnation is of the ego. Condemnation is a low density. You can't be thinking, well, you can't think you have a lot of light, but if you are not in compassion, if you're not in kindness, you're not in the light. but you think it, and that's part of the process. I thought I was really enlightened before I really even turned my light on. But it's just part of the journey. We just have to go through the steps.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you.
Hey, Vern, thank you so much for being with us.
Hey, Laina, I really, really enjoyed this. I love simplicity, and you did a fantastic job of breaking down a very, very complex thing into something that you can almost meditate on each of those quadrants and get such a tremendous amount of information. So you've really done a great service today, and I really want to thank you. I'm also excited because I've labeled myself a conscious, compassionate conservative all my life. And a lot of people don't really understand what that means, is that I could actually have a political orientation and still be interested in spirituality. And having a chance to review your 2020 venture that you went on, and the opportunities of learning about yourself and others around you, that sharing at that level really opened the door for me to decide that I wanted to spend time with you. I'm looking forward to listening to everybody and sharing my current hallucinations because there's one thing I'm absolutely clear on, is I don't know anything about anything. However, it's a great opportunity to spend some time with others. I don't like the idea of like minds, because I've always said when two people think identically, one of them's not necessary. So I kind of like the idea of having this opportunity, hopefully, as you present the catalyst at the levels you're capable of doing it, to get different perspectives on that information. And I think that's what Edukari is all about, or education. That's what you're doing. So I'm looking forward to it. I will be here as often as I can. And it looks like you really launched a nice ship, and I'm here to put my oar in the boat with you.
Well, that's a compliment, because I've been to your classes and I know what a brilliant teacher you are, and what a brilliant, a gifted teacher. Because one thing that I'm becoming very clear about is that for me and for many that I am having the pleasure of connecting with, taking a stand politically is actually quite spiritual, because that is exactly what Jesus did when he walked on this planet. He took a stand and he stood up to the leaders of that time. He stood up to the Pharisees. He was letting them know that their ideas of God were not correct. They had complicated God. They had created so many laws. They had become the indoctrinators. They had become the ones who decided what God was for everybody else and then charged them to get to God. And it's imperative that we understand that the world is in a state of nightmare because we have stopped being participants in the creation of the happy dream. And the first way of participating in the creation of a happy dream is to clear up our mind, to unplug from that matrix, and then to become conscious participants in the game. These systems are breaking down. They have to. They are not sustainable. When they made money their master, money and power their master, they were doomed. And it was just a matter of time before that ship went down. And it is down now. We are in the midst of moving up. We're creating a new earth. For us to ascend, we have got to be willing to clean up what is not working. And that means, and the course is really clear, what is not working is there because we hold it in our consciousness as a reality. And we have to pull the power from it by saying, no, you, Mr. President or Mr. Governor or Mr. Medical examiner or whatever, or CDC or whatever you are, or New World Order, whatever it might be, you do not know what's best for me. We have got to remove the label of external authority. We've got to say, no, you're not my authority. And we don't have to do it in a mean way. We don't have to go attack and kill anybody. But internally, we need to not participate in somebody having power over us. The Course in Miracles says that we have one problem, and it's the authority problem. We have given authority to something external only because we've been scared into believing that that is where our safety lies. So becoming more politically involved is necessary because it's what creates the system that we're playing inside of. And we are the ones who have to pull the plug from this system that is, it's kind of on life support right now, but we got to pull that plug. And the way we do it is with clarity about, as I said in my class last night, God wants us to recognize that it is our only Father, Mother, God. So we've got to get clear that there's only one authority. So we got to know who's our daddy. And if God is not our daddy, if we are not connected to that internal Father inside of us, we're looking for daddy in all the wrong places to take care of us. And we've got to get clear about that power. So thank you so much, Vern. I look forward to this journey with you and with everybody here. And Lisa, you want to share something? Oh, wait, let's unmute. There we go.
There we go. Well, Laina, I really appreciate this this program that you're putting together. This is how my God works in my life. I was going through some notebooks and I was trying to find some paper, and I came across my notes from the course that I took, The Power of Now with You, probably back in 2008.
Oh, Lord.
And so it's speaking to me that this is what I need from Laina. And, I've been on a journey. I heard very early in my life that I'm here to help people. And, but let me tell you, the density and the darkness that I grew up in just kept me down. So I had but I was always searching, and I had various books, and somebody mentioned, oh, this is another course that I'm going to take. But I will tell you, I had to go through all the books, all the teachers, all the lessons to get where I am today. And a teacher told me, a spiritual teacher told me that what my problem is that I go up on the mountain and I receive my light and I receive my joy. And halfway down the mountain, I've already given it away. So I was giving it to people who were not ready to receive it, or the ones that drained me of my light. And I ended up draining myself. So I was constantly in that vortex of going up the mountain, getting my light and giving it to people that were not ready to receive it. So I am just excited to be on this journey and to learn some more about, I just ordered the book Course in Miracles too. It's Amazon's supposed to be delivering it today, but I really appreciate it. And I look forward to hearing everybody else's stories and journeys as well. Thank you.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for being here. I am so grateful. My goodness, you've been with me a long time. That's very cool. Good to have you back. Very cool. So just a few more of you share your thoughts, and then let's say goodbye after this and connect again next week.
Can I say something? This is Jody.
Yes, Miss Jody.
Hi there. I just want to thank you for doing this. I realized in my journey that no matter how much work I do and know about truth and integrate, the ego is very insidious, and so it's extremely important. I think you said it on this call, to have your mighty companions and to stay plugged in. And so I'm grateful. And it's just perfect timing for me. So thank you so much. That's all I really want to share. I love you. You're awesome. Thank you for being a light and doing this today.
Well, thank you for being here and being willing to receive so that you can extend it. So it takes all of us. So thank you so much for being here.
Love you, Judy.
Love you, Natalia.
Hello, anybody else want to share any nuggets you might have received from this journey? Well, then just unmute yourself and let's say goodbye to each other and remind each other that we are magnificent. And what
Love you all.
is already inside of us.
Love you, Jody.
Love you, Kat.
Love you, kids.
Thank you, Laina.
Love you,
Thank
Donna.
you
Hi, Peter.
Love
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
very much.
Everybody, thank you. And you'll
Bye. Have a
Bye.
great day.
Thank you, Laina.
you'll
Bye.
Bye all.
share it with others. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Solid and mighty.